Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve and yes, the old bring a Bournemouth defender in as part of a hit in order to set up for double game week 28 and risking the yellow card situation on Senesi in the process, only to see him last 11 minutes in a fixture in which they cleaned. Well, that 11-minute appearance left me 1 point shy of my safety score last week, coming away with 80 points total, -4, so netting 76 points. If Senesi hadn't have got himself injured, I would have been on about a 4 or 5 point green arrow, which is a little bit disappointing. You gotta laugh sometimes in FPL and simply move on. If you are new to the channel, I am on a free hit 29 strategy, and so I am looking for a potential replacement for Senesi that will likely need to last me until around about game week 33. As my tentative plan as of right now is to probably wildcard around game week 33 in order to set up for a game week 34 bench boost, assuming that the fixtures fall favourably for that game week 34 double and blank game week. I'll go into the fixture ticker a little bit there to kind of iron those out for all of you out there so you can kind of visually see what's going on with the potential blanks and doubles in game week 34 and the potential doubles in game week 37. And to bring you up to speed, I actually did make another move after the release of my video last week, and some of you eagle-eyed people in the comment probably would have picked up on this, as I did actually mention it in, I think it was the thread speaking with Ocean Loader. And as of my video last week, I was going to hold on to De Bruyne for game week 27, but hearing the news overnight after I released the video that Richarlison was going to be out for up to 4 weeks, I made the move for Son as part of a hit last week. So I will briefly go through my reasoning there in this video. Speaking of hits, I am super glad that I brought Ollie Watkins back into my team for a hit in game week 26. He has since gone on to score 9 points and a 13-pointer in the last 2 game weeks, easily paying back that hit in game week 26 and then some. He was actually tentatively on the shortlist of potential punts to remove this week had Senesi not gotten himself injured. And we'll go through that in this video. And finally, Salah was included in the 23-man Europa League trip to Sparta Prague. So we need to go through any tentative plans in order to look to bring him back into the squad over the coming game weeks. But before we get started, if you like the following content, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So, to start with, Richarlison we actually got mixed reports on exactly how long Richarlison is out for. Postecoglou came out saying he's probably out for 2 to 3 weeks, and then in a follow-up interview he was saying that he might then be out for 3 to 4 weeks. And then a little bit later, Richarlison went and did an interview, I think over in Brazil somewhere, and said that he might even be back this weekend. So very mixed reports as to what is going on with Richarlison. But when I made the move last week, I was looking at holding on to KDB, which was what I was going to do at the end of the video last weekend. The video last week. But as I normally do, I spend the deadline day pretty much going through comments on the videos to the threads and replying to whatever questions have come out from the community out there. And I realized that overnight Richarlison had been touted that he was going to be out for up to 4 weeks, and it started to become clear to me that holding on to KDB was then turning into a much more risky play for game week 27. Son at that point was already the top transfer in for game week 27, a full 14 hours before the deadline, in which many managers still had their transfers to make, as many of you out there do delay your transfers right up until the final deadline in order to gain as much information as possible. And so the 346,000 transfers in for Son at the time at which I found out the news was going to, well, definitely going to increase by the deadline last week. And with Richarlison out, Son was almost certainly going to be playing up front, with Werner playing out on the wing. And with Son's movement in front of goal when playing number 9, his multi-footed abilities, and the ruthless finishing that Son offers, he was just too much of a weapon to pass up, especially considering that KDB could actually have been benched again and might not make enough minutes in order to match the potential hat-trick that I saw that Son could potentially achieve in the weekend just gone. Now, Son didn't come away with a hat-trick. He did score a goal, so he did repay the hit almost instantly. But we brought him in. Son could have gotten a lot more than the 7 points that he earned last weekend. He additionally hit the post in a shot that you probably would have seen Son scoring more often than not. It was another shot that he had in the match which barely missed the far post by about, I don't know, couple of yards wide of the post, and there were 2 other potential assists that were not converted by, I think it was Werner and Johnson, who he set up with very big chances. Could have been an absolute monster haul from Son. But if you do not currently own Son yet in your squads, and you didn't bring him in game week 27, with Son's move to being playing up in that number 9 position, and the run of fixtures from an attacking point of view coming up, he is one of the top candidates that you should look to bring in. He's away to Aston Villa this week, who do concede a lot of chances. He plays in game week 29 for any of you that are not looking to use a chip in the blank game week, and is away to Fulham, in which he could do very well, and Son will be on pretty much every free hit team that is out there. He then has Luton at home in 30, West Ham away in 31, and Nottingham Forest in game week 32, and even the fixture in game week 33 away to Newcastle could be quite lucrative for Son, as Newcastle, although kept a clean sheet last week, are still looking like they will ship goals to those relatively decent attacking teams. So that brings you up to speed with what happened in my squad. I benched both of my Newcastle defenders. They came away with 6 points and 8 points respectively. Thankfully, Dubravka, I think he got a couple of save points. Yeah, 3 saves for the extra save point. Finally keeping a clean sheet. Gusto came away with an attacking return. Super stoked about that. Gabriel got clean sheet. Everyone's got an Arsenal defender, and the Senesi 11 minutes. Pretty much the rest of the team is probably pretty template, all things considered. So we'll just move on to game week 28. So we are looking for Senesi replacements. And as I mentioned, I did bring Senesi in as part of the 2-transfer hit. Now I'm calling it a 2-transfer hit because I didn't really need to make both transfers. I was downgrading KDB to Son, so I already had the money for that. The reason I did bring Senesi in was actually part of a bit of a... It was there to give me a couple of options moving forward. One was to have enough money in order to downgrade either Solanke or Watkins to someone like a Semenyo either this game week or in game week 30 moving forward, and I would have enough money to go Garnacho, who's currently on my bench, all the way up to Salah, meaning that I would be able to fit in Saka, Foden, Son, Salah, Watkins or Solanke, whoever I didn't sell, and Haaland into my squad. I was looking at the potential, assuming that Senesi wasn't injured this week, of selling Ollie Watkins, hopefully punting on the fact that he blanks against Tottenham at home this week, and potentially bringing in Semenyo as an additional double game weeker for their very good looking attacking fixtures of Sheffield United at home and Luton at home this week. But I will not be selling Watkins for a hit in order to do this. I'll probably just end up either taking a hit in game week 30 to downgrade one of these two to grab the final funds in order to bring Salah into my squad, or I might just hold both and potentially run Foden all the way up to Salah. So I currently have 6.1 million in the bank, and I could go... if I sell Foden, I can go straight up to Salah, as I've got 14 million, but also either Solanke or Watkins for a downgrade will give me the funds to go Garnacho all the way up to Salah. So my Salah plans are already relatively locked in. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail a little bit further along. But yeah, I was looking to potentially sell Watkins this week, buy an extra double game weeker, and then be a move forward or a move ahead in order to bring Salah in game week 30 for that Brighton fixture. If you do not look to buy... I'm really going into the Salah chat right now. I probably should just continue on with it. If you're not going to be looking to bringing Salah back in for game week 30, you will almost certainly want him in game week 31, as he will have Sheffield United at home, which is one of the worst defences in the league. But Brighton themselves have been pretty leaky, and I was looking to jump on that fixture in game week 30 without having to take a hit at that point, buying a double game weeker this week, hoping that that hit would have prepaid itself in order to have Salah as a differential in game week 30. But with Senesi's injury, I will need to get rid of him in order to bring in another defender this week. And there really are only two options that I am now considering, and it is the same options that pretty much everyone else out there is considering, and that is either Zabani at Bournemouth, who has zero attacking threat but is about as nailed on as it gets in the Bournemouth team, or Alfie Doughty at Luton, who has very little chance of keeping any clean sheets but comes with quite a bit of attacking threat. So the decision for me, for most of the defenders that I've been looking to bring in, this defensive strategy that I have been going with for quite some time and have been talking about for quite some time on this channel, is to just focus on attacking defenders, because the clean sheets are very few and far between. The additional stoppage time might be playing a part, might be making teams a lot more fatigued throughout the matches, and there's just more minutes for opponent teams to be scoring goals, and so I've really been focusing on those attacking defenders. However, this time around, the player that I do bring in, I will most likely need to use in my squad in game weeks 30, 31, 32, or 33. I will be looking for someone that is likely going to need to come off the bench in order to avoid some relatively tricky games for either Newcastle, who will be coming up against West Ham, and Tottenham across that run. And I do not really favour that all too much. Or the Arsenal game in game week 30, where they are away to Man City. I will probably be looking to bench Gabriel in one of those game weeks, and so game week 30 I would really need some sort of coverage for the defender that I do bring in, and this almost immediately rules out Luton as an option here. The run from game week 30 to 33 includes Tottenham away, Arsenal away, and Man City away for Luton defender if I was to bring them in. And even their double this week, both fixtures are away to Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Crystal Palace haven't really been setting the world alight in terms of attacking output, but Bournemouth and Solanke have been managing to put together some relatively good attacking stats, and Solanke is right up there in terms of the Golden Boot race. He's maybe like 3 or 4 goals off the top, but he is, I think, in 4th place. I think he might be 4th place after last week, slightly behind Ollie Watkins. You'd probably put money on Solanke to score in both these fixtures. He is my captain this week. Everyone out there is probably captaining him this week, and there will even be some triple captains out there, and one of those fixtures is against Luton, so I don't really want to bring in a Luton defender and have them stuck into my team until I pull the wild card in order to set up for the bench boost. And so there's not really a hell of a lot more to this. My move this week will be to sell Senesi for Zabani and just hope that both Sheffield United and Luton are unable to score in their matches. For those of you looking to bring in Alfie Doughty for his attacking threat, I think Bournemouth do have a pretty good shot of keeping a clean sheet against Luton and probably scoring, and so Doughty seems like a bit of a punt. The expected goals conceded stats for Bournemouth all season have been pretty decent. Over the last, where are they? Yeah, over the last 5 fixtures, expected to concede 7 goals, so about 1 point. What's that quick math? Like 1.1, 1.2 goals per game, and that run of fixtures isn't against teams like Sheffield United and Luton, who, Luton to be fair, have been scoring a few goals of lately, but Sheffield United are, I mean, that's about as close to a banker clean sheet as you could possibly imagine. So, Senesi out for Zabani, that will be my one free transfer, and I'm not really looking to make any other transfers for game week 28. And I will be rolling straight into a free hit in game week 29. So, moving forward to Salah, I have already given myself a relatively easy route back into Salah, as I did make the move last week to prepay the hit in order to bring in Senesi for that Burnley fixture. And hoping that he would keep the clean sheet. He did in fact keep the clean sheet, but obviously got himself injured. But that downgrade from Pedro Porro to Senesi did provide me enough funds in order to go either Foden straight up to Salah, or to move either Solanke or Watkins down to someone like a Semenyo, switching back to a 3-5-2 formation and upgrading Garnacho all the way up to Salah. So Salah was included in the 23-man squad for the Europa fixture this morning. Is it this morning? Pretty sure it was this morning. In which they scored 5, I think it was. Let's just order this by team. There's Liverpool. Yeah, so they won their game 5-1 against Sparta Prague this morning. I think Salah did, in fact, come in off the bench. He didn't start the match and scored a goal. And so, assuming that he doesn't re-aggravate that injury, we will definitely be looking at him in game week 30 or 31. So, your transfers in game week 28 really do need to have probably have some sort of thought in mind as to how you are going to bring Salah back into your squad, who you are going to sell in midfield in order to do that, and whether or not you should be taking additional hits to bring in, say, a Barkley from Luton, or a Tavernier or a Clivert from Bournemouth. I mean, if either of those moves shoots yourself in the foot in order to bring Salah back into your team too easily, then you might want to re-weigh up those decisions. For me, I am heavily favouring selling Garnacho and going back to a 3-5-2 formation and probably ditching Ollie Watkins, which sounds absurd considering the form that Ollie Watkins has been in and his effective ownership. He's 56% owned in the game, but for the engaged managers in the higher ranks, like 500k plus, he's owned by like 80 to 90% of the competition and has just scored 13 points, 9 points, 13, 2 and 18 points in the last 5 fixtures. Extended out slightly further, he's even scored 7, 1, 8. I mean, the man has been on fire. But I just do not know how I managed to sell Phil Foden, given the form that he is in himself for Man City. He is, I mean, what an absolute weapon. Pep has done wonders transforming him into a central midfielder across the space of the season. His head has been on a swivel. He is super aware of what's going on. His touches have been supreme, working in close quarters, not really losing the ball, lots of dynamic runs in behind the defense. He is just turning into a world-class central midfielder. And even though he does have Liverpool away this week, a blank for game week 29 in which I am free hitting, and then coming back to Arsenal at home in game week 30, I just don't see how I sell him or bench him given the form that he is in. Liverpool's team is pretty depleted at the moment. They do have quite a lot of injuries, and so I can see Man City scoring a few goals there and Foden potentially being involved. That Arsenal game in game week 30 will be pretty tough, but I am not too averse to playing a player like Phil Foden in such good form against the top opponents. I mean, way earlier on in the season, I made a move to bring Heung-min Son in ahead of 2 games in which he had to play Liverpool and Arsenal in the run of fixtures, and I got a little bit of flack for that in the comments, but then Son went on to score, I think it was 2 goals in one of those games and then a goal and an assist in the other. He actually managed to return some pretty decent returns, so I'm not at all worried about playing or trying to avoid these fixtures. Yeah, but it's really Foden versus probably Ollie Watkins, and Ollie Watkins does have a bit of a tricky run coming up after game week 30. So 29 I'm free hitting, and I will definitely have him in the squad. Spurs are a pretty leaky defense, and so I could definitely see Ollie Watkins scoring in game week 28. I am now obviously holding Ollie Watkins through this fixture, but game week 30 you might see Wolves keep Aston Villa quiet. I think Villa are really going to struggle against Man City away in game week 31, and Arsenal away in game week 33, as I just think City and Arsenal have too much quality for the Villa team overall. And that Brentford game in game week 32, I mean, Brentford's defence, when they put up a low block against any sort of decent attacking team, is a hell of a defence to break down. Pep likened it in a recent comment to going to the dentist without having anaesthetic, and yeah, that 5-3-2 that they roll out is just super compact. They are well drilled in formation, the whole fixture, and just really, really, really difficult to break down. Man City struggled to break them down. They only managed to beat them 1-0. And Aston Villa do not have nearly as much quality in that City squad. And so I don't know how many chances Ollie Watkins is going to get in this run of 31, 32 and 33. And so in game week 30, I may look to punt on removing him and just hoping that Wolves indeed go and keep him quiet. But those are the future tentative planned moves that I may look to be making in order to move for Salah in the upcoming game weeks. And just finally, future, to look ahead into the future. Man, my words are all over the place today. Sorry about that. But in the last video, I hadn't actually written the logic for my fixture ticket in order to flesh out the game week 34 and 37 doubles, as well as having the game week 34 potential blanks in there. I have indeed written that logic over the last, well, actually I wrote it yesterday, yesterday afternoon, as I have spent the last couple of days helping my sister and her partner move house. But the potential blanks in game week 34 you can see on screen in black. Now these are all still up in the air based on the results in the external competitions that either the team is in or their opponents are in. So Arsenal playing Wolves, if Arsenal is still in a competition, then they could potentially blank. But if Wolves is also in a competition, then obviously their opponents could potentially blank. And so you could see Arsenal blank, Brighton blank, Chelsea blank, Fulham, Liverpool, City, United, Newcastle, Spurs and Wolves could all have their existing fixtures have to be rescheduled if results do go certain ways in the external competitions. However, game week 34 will also be a double, and a lot of these teams also have catch-up matches that could also be scheduled into this week. And so, for example, if I put together a hypothetical, this Arsenal versus Wolves game could potentially be called off, but the Arsenal versus Chelsea game could get scheduled into the midweek fixture, making Arsenal have a blank and an extra fixture scheduled in, meaning that they would still have a single game week fixture in game week 34. So there might not be as many doubles depending on results. There could be a whole bunch of blanks, a whole bunch of doubles, really dependent of what's going on. But the key here is you can see the blue teams are all the fixtures that do need to be rescheduled and where they could in fact be scheduled into. And for example, if you have a look at Chelsea here on screen, if Brighton make it through the Europa League, which is looking very, very unlikely now, having them just being spanked 4-0 by AS Roma, they would have to turn that around and then make it through their, I think it's the quarterfinals. They would also have to progress through for this fixture to be called off. And then Chelsea would not have an opponent to play in game week 34. And if that happened, then you could see out here in game week 37 that There is a fixture to rescheduled for Chelsea vs Arsenal. There's also another one for Chelsea vs Tottenham. But additionally, if this fixture against Brighton is also miraculously called off, there would be 3 fixtures to reschedule for Chelsea. And so you would probably see one of them drop into 34, another one drop into 37, and then this Brighton fixture would have to be rescheduled as well, or maybe the Brighton fixture into either game weeks 35 or 36, depending on whether or not this blank for in game week 34 is what actually does turn into a blank. So although there aren't any percentages here on how likely all these things are to happen, it does help you plan for what teams you will probably want to hold on to, as every team in blue here will need to be rescheduled. So Arsenal still need to play Chelsea, and that could fall in game week 34 or could also fall in game week 37. Basically just means that Arsenal will definitely have a double at some point. Well, probably have a double, not necessarily, as that Wolves fixture could be called off. If that Wolves fixture is called off, then the Chelsea fixture could still fall in, but then that Wolves fixture will have to be rescheduled, and that will probably be pushed out to game week 37. So it doesn't show you exactly how likely each of these are to fall into what the given game weeks are, because we are still too far away. There's still the second leg of the Europa League fixtures, the Europa Conference League fixtures, and the Champions League fixtures to be played out, and so a lot of this is all up in the air, but it does give you a relatively good idea of the teams that you might like to hold on to. For example, holding on to Cole Palmer at Chelsea is probably a good idea because they potentially have the most fixtures to reschedule and could have a whole bunch of doubles coming up in future. And alright, that wraps up this video. So remember to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, I will catch you again shortly. Cheers.